All right. So, Jamie, we are, and you know this, we're pumped that you could be joining us here, Tailgating with Geniuses. And you are coming to us from San Diego-ish, California today.
Yes, not my home state or
I
country, but
know.
that's where I'm sitting right now. Yeah.
Did they allow that up in Canada? You just leave for the winter? I mean, when did that start?
I'm not a
That's that.
snowbird.
Yeah, but that's Ken. That's the national sport. They check out Florida, check out Arizona. It's nothing
That's
but
true, I
those people.
suppose.
Yeah, I don't blame
That's
them. I've never done it before. I do love the winter. I love winter sports. I miss it. But I gotta tell you, Southern California is kind of a sweet gig. I get it. Now I get it. The traffic, the tax, the people, the population, the expense. I get it. It's nice here.
you
Well,
could do so much work.
it's a big leap from. Let's do a little bit. I want to talk about you and how you started this path. I remember in a conversation we had a couple of years ago, you were talking about the fact that basically just by birth, the family you were born into, you wound up living next to mountains, right? And that was is that correct? You just basically
Yes.
had Canadian Rockies in the backyard. But how did you go from loving the outdoors to where you are right now? What started you on this path?
I think that was a good question, and it was certainly a family thing. We were born in the shadow. Calgary, Canada is a lot like a Boulder, Denver, Colorado. People are unfamiliar with Canadian geography. So, 60 miles, 100 kilometers to the west, these crazy mountains. And they loom large in your life. I can't imagine how they couldn't if you lived there. But my family wasn't crazy about climbing mountains, but they were interested in outdoor activity. And then I got sort of obsessed and took it to something of a sicker, invented level. Um, Largely by the encouragement of my mom not to play hockey. What's that? She
Wait,
hates
wait,
that sport.
you were encouraged not to play hockey? That's not
Those
possible in Canada.
those delicate, spindly bones were.
My mom knew that, I'd get a concussion and stay home longer than she wanted. So she probably thoughtful about not playing. Well, it's expensive too, right? A lot of these organized sports are expensive. Ours was a modest family. I think just the work for families to driving kids here and there and doing that. I've got siblings and it just wasn't really on our agenda. And I don't think my mom anticipated that it was going to lead to an obsession with outdoor activity, in particular mountain climbing. But I think she was looking for a thing to distract me, and mountains seemed to be the closest thing that would do it. And to this day, I'm ever grateful.
Let me ask you this then: for the businesses that you have spoken with, and consulted with, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of them. Are they attracted to you? Are they seeking from you kind of that escape that they get from hearing you talk about climbing, or are they seeking to hear you talk about how you get the motivation to do this stuff? It's two separate things.
Right out of the gate, tough question. Saying no warm-ups, no lobs, nothing. Hey, right out of the
You
gate.
had
I
the
like
lob. We gave you the
Hey,
lob.
dude,
We gave you the
you know.
hockey stuff.
you've done all 7 summits. Don't give us any crap. This is easy. There are no dead
Right.
bodies lying around us
Exactly.
when we do our bit.
Here's the lob. Where are you from? And then right into the next one. I think it's both, and it's a good question. And I think it changes, it varies. I'm not trying to be elusive to answer the question. I think it really does depend on the situation. And there's probably an element of all of it at every time, but maybe some stuff gets throttled up and some stuff gets pushed down. So sometimes the audience, let's say it's late in the day after a long day of meetings and you're there as the evening entertainment. That's what you are. You're the evening entertainment, helping them digest dinner and giving them some ideas to think about, but some entertainment, some pace, some laughter, some perspective, maybe some nuggets that they'll think about 2 weeks later. But don't beat them over the head with anything heavy at that time because it's dinner. Now, you're kicking off the conference on a Monday morning, the whole thing gets started, and you need to set the tone. Then you're going to deliver different things. But I think it's both. I think that especially for leaders, a lot of the time, leaders enjoy having cheerleaders because that's often the role they play. It's nice. Everyone looks to the CEO or looks to the leadership for that inspiration. They enjoy it too. It can't all be fluff. So you got to, I think, complement the inspiration with some good nuggets that are useful for them and they can think about in 6 months because the motivation fades, right? It's like junk food. It just blah, it's gone. but what's sustainable. So I'm not trying to be a weasel, but I think to answer your question, it's a bit of both. Depends on the circumstance.
You're talking, by the way, to the two patron saints of declining motivation.
I thought it was going to be weaseling. I thought I was like ready to, you know, you hold on to what you got. Jamie, I want to hold on to or go back to motivation because there's an entire psychology around that. And you having done the accomplishments of summiting every mountain, and you've done all the majors, and I'm sure a number of minors as well, there is a state of mind in doing that. There is a psychology to encouraging that and pulling that out of people. It's strange, though, and here's the dichotomy. Motivational speakers are often considered, it can be cliched, right? It can be considered, there's a whole lot of fluffery and BS around it. And yet we all want that motivating story. What's the psychology of motivation, and why do we gravitate towards it?
I couldn't agree with you more. I didn't want this thing to have to turn into a love fest, but I totally agree with you. Motivational speakers, not only is it fluffy, it can be cheesy. It can be,
Dude.
Often when you say refer to me as a motivational speaker, I've got such baggage associated with that idea that I'm like,
I hear you on that, brother. Yeah.
but I'm a sucker for a little kick in the butt. I love someone who's inspiring and and it's motivating. I guess motivational speaking, motivating has a bad rap, and probably rightfully so. Although I think high performers don't need a lot of motivation. They need some perspective. They might need some inspiration. They might need a little adjustment, a regroup, a kick in the pants, a hug, metaphorically. So I think the psychology of it is quite interesting. If you're really, truly working with, say, a leadership team and they need motivating, you've got the wrong people in the room, I think. And if I'm on a mountain and I've got to encourage you to go do this job, I mean, you could be having a bad day. You might be questioning your perspective and your values and why you committed to this path. Okay, you're having a bit of an existential crisis. I get it. We have that. But beyond that, motivation. You should be having that in spades. Otherwise, you're off the team. Because there's other people we can get replaced. They don't have the skill that you have. But man, I would trade inspiration, drive, motivation for a lot of skill. Because I can teach the skill, but I can't inherently inject that, undermine sort of that that foundation of I want to do this and I want to work hard and I want to. You gotta be able to do the grind. I think that's it. That's what it's just the grind. It's like putting up with the grind day in and day out. I think that's what audiences resonate with because climbing mountains is a grind. It's just a miserable experience. It's type 2 fun. It's not fun. It's not woohoo. This is fun.
Well, then, if it's miserable fun, then, and it's the cliche question, then why do people do what's the draw? Is the challenge the draw or the view from the top? I mean, what is it that pulls people through the grind?
Well, I can only speak for me, I guess. Navel-gazing way, I've thought about that a lot. And I think those things are nice. The accoutrement, the view, sure. That's not sustainable, though. Certainly in the mountain climbing world, there's no money to be made. It's a dirtbag profession, say for a few who've done well of late. It's a tough way to make a living. There's a lot of living in the van down by the river. So what's the motivation for it? Certainly not the money. It's again, it's the process. It's the grind. You gotta love that hard work. And ultimately in the moment, I've never been a part of a big trip that I didn't want to quit. So I'm not just saying it was all fun. It's like you wanted to quit, but man, it's so rewarding. And I guess that's it. It's the reward, the intrinsic, deep, personal satisfaction of doing something that was difficult that you didn't think you could do. There was so much unknown, yet you stepped forward and went into it. To me, it's the DNA of happiness.
Well, that's got to be what inspires, what gets leaders charged up because, they look at the world a bit differently than a rank and file, excuse the term employee, but I mean, they've got stuff that they got to hit. They got numbers that they got to hit, goals that they got to achieve. And I'm sure there's a lot of mornings they wake up and say, shit, I don't want to do this today. I've had it with this. The view's no good up here anymore,
Yeah,
but they
I
know
think
they
so.
got to keep doing it.
And I think also with those leaders, they've been well compensated, right? They've done well in their career. They're probably making pretty good money. We can do the research on a public company and actually know their compensation. So they've probably met the foundation of, I've got my mortgage paid off, and maybe I've got some money saved up. I'm not driven by trying to, paying my kids to get through college. I'm driven by something else. And I think climbers start there, because it isn't really a money conversation. And you start at that place and get that early access to the reward of the difficult thing. And it's not polluted. It's kind of convenient, actually, because it doesn't get polluted by money. You get to look at this pure thing. And maybe that's in part why I guess I'm so lucky that in a way I got into this job, into the climbing world. Say instead of hockey, not that I could ever play the game, but wouldn't it have been a joy to play a sport? I don't know a greater thing on the planet to go out and do. But thank goodness I didn't take that path, because I had to pursue this thing, even though it was probably just going to cost me nothing but money. But I still wanted to do it. And that was a good lesson.
So, Jamie, when Ken and I were talking before you came on the show, we were back and forth on, like, why, not to take you out of a job, but why does this still exist, right? Because I look at the companies that you work with, and you work with professional athletes, you do all of this amazing stuff. And I asked the question to Ken, is it because leaders and people great at the roles and the jobs that they have fight and reach a pinnacle of success? And once they're at that pinnacle, the challenge becomes, well, how do I keep doing this? Because to reach that point, you've had to do a lot of things and get those things correct. But once you're at that point, that question, is this all there is, comes up. Like, okay, I did all that and I'm here. Is motivation just something that is that reminder, that spark, that fire to just keep the engine going for people? Or is it something else? Does it get into your bones and drive you does something different happen?
You must be mistaking me for a psychologist or a sociologist or
Dude,
someone
you've
with
been on
PhD.
top of mountains. You had to have met the guy in the robes up there who can answer these life questions. Dude, there's no other reason you're here.
Yeah. I got to be careful, I think, where we start, given tossing around our sort of pop psychology. I think we've got some answers to stuff. I mean, every day that passes, there's another cliche. I feel like an imposter and nothing but a fluke, and I still got a ton to learn, which is a good thing. If that disappears, then I probably have a problem. I should be more alarmed by thinking I know some stuff. That said, have some hunches and have some ideas. And you're right, I've been really lucky to get parachute into the heart of big companies all over the world for a long time. And I don't ask them about sports. I don't care about what their favorite team is. I want to know about what book they read. I want to know about how they parent. I want to know about, if we have that opportunity to discuss, their learnings from having to lay off 4 people, or how do you scale up? I like those. And I think what I've observed across the board is, and I was just having this conversation recently with a client who's very accomplished and done very well. In my head, I was like, why are you putting yourself through this? You've got this amazing home here, an amazing home here, and you've got your adult kids are all doing well, and you've got this. What are you doing? And his response is, I can't. It's that purpose. I can't not do this. I got to be a little bit better and take care of my cardiovascular health. I probably need to, throw a little better meals in there and some less booze and better workout. But I can't not do it. So I think there is a wiring element. Maybe that's part of just human nature. Not for all of us. I can coast. You give me a TV and again a good Netflix show and the remote, nobody to bug me. I'm shocked at how many hours I can burn through. So I don't think it's some innate ability. I think it's learned behavior. We got to get out there and for our own health and well-being. And I think that motivation, although it wanes, it ebbs and flows, it gets undermined, is kind of an inherent part. And money and all that other accoutrement really isn't the objective. It's just maybe more of a way to keep score, which is even faulty unto itself.
Let me ask you this, because I think that there are ways that the sports world and the business world intersect, obviously. But from the standpoint of performance and motivation for somebody in the Caps, Washington Capitals, NHL team, they win the Stanley Cup. You work with NFL teams, the hockey teams all over Canada. I mean, so these are people that are at the top of the mountain, so to speak, well paid, famous, doing something that they absolutely love, that they get cheered for. I mean, what could possibly be better? What's missing that they call in a performance coach?
I think that's great. I recently had lunch with current NHL player out of respect for confidentiality. I mentioned not a high performer on the team, big contract, a lot of pressure to do well. And we were having this conversation, kind of a mentor relationship and discussion. I was careful around performance coach and sort of those labels. They get lumped into motivational speaker too. And people trade on those currencies when maybe they shouldn't. So always a little leery about that. So what's this conversation? And you know what? We didn't talk one iota about hockey. This person is surrounded by geniuses, tailgating or otherwise, in their world. On this team, they have 32 staff. They've got the hockey brains. Same thing with the business leaders. They've got a great team around them. Hopefully, an excellent functioning board with tremendous experience. I never really talk about the business with an executive I'm spending time with. I didn't talk about hockey with a hockey player, even though they're playing in the NHL. I'm talking about being ultimately a good human being. Like, how do they show up in the locker room? What are the behaviors that are emblematic of their character? And what kind of character are they trying to develop? Not just present facadely, but really truly develop. And those are the conversations we have. And most of the time, I just listen. And there's something powerful about giving that elite athlete, that elite leader, a safe place to speak with no judgment. I have zero hidden agenda. I have nothing in my heart other than, how can I help you? And then I can push back, because if it's not working, fire me. Fire me tomorrow. I'll tell that's the first. Look, if this doesn't work, can me. I'm on the first one to leave. Like, I'm not adding value. Jamie, buzz off. Maybe we circle back in a couple of years. No harm, no foul.
But
and I can push their buttons.
You're
I
not
can
some
say,
guy coming
what?
in off the street either. I mean, these guys all look up to, recognize and see in you what you've done and what you've accomplished. And I don't want to give that the soft stroke here. I mean, you've done extraordinary things, and I know that deep down inside they're trying to draw some of that, whatever that is, that aura out of you into themselves.
Yeah, it could maybe, I try not to overthink it too much. I'm very careful at trying to make sure I can add value. And I think part of it is, Ken, this idea of separating the passion that you hope to cultivate from the thing that you're using to express it. And often we can, or we don't think we can, because they're so tightly bundled. Either we have zero passion and we're drifting, and that's a struggle, or we're certainly driven. And in the leadership role, you can bump things. Maybe we're driven and now that we realize you change your values in life. Oh man, I took the wrong path. Well, that's a different situation to encounter. But generally speaking, you're driven and you see the thing and the passion really as one unit. And ultimately, with a bit of analysis and some time and thinking, there are two things. Because the passion, I think, is unto itself. The way you do everything or anything, and then you can pour it into your work. The way you change your kid's diaper, the way you don't have to do it like a military machine. I just mean with a lightness of being, with an optimism, with a passion, with an interest, with a creativity, with a sensitivity. And passion I've discovered over time, and I think in part leaders, it's helpful for leaders to hear that. You're very passionate about the business. You're very passionate about playing hockey. But actually, your passion exists independent of that thing. And that thing goes away when you retire from the game or from leading this company. The essence of you doesn't retire with it. That essence of you, that passionate, that thoughtful, that curious person still exists. You're just not playing hockey anymore. You're just not leading the organization anymore. But you are still in.
That's great. So, so Jamie, so I haven't shared this with you before, but I'm getting on a plane, flying out to San Diego, and I'm going to hug you and kiss you because I've been I've been a Caps fan
This just took a
since
turn.
19. I've been a Caps fan since 19, and I am a Washington Capitals jersey, everything big. And thank you, right? Because the story, as I understand, is you were in the locker room with those guys as they, I know it was a little bit, and a guy like you is going to say that, and it's not really to talk about your role, right? So just enjoy these accolades while you can. But the truth, we'll get back to abuse later. The truth, though, is I would love to know what, and we can talk about a boardroom and we can talk about a work situation, but what's happening at that professional sports level when you're moving as far down the line where you're seeing the playoffs are in front of you? You get into the playoffs and you move it. Everybody's tired. There's injuries taking place. That locker room has to be filled with such excitement and exhaustion and anticipation at the same time. Work is similar to that when you're getting to a project. What is that mindset that's moving through there? Is it fear? Is it hope? What's taking place there? And then what do the pro athletes and the great leaders sort of really put an emphasis on and hold on to? Is there a thing? Did you see it in the locker room?
I think so. I think there is a thing. And it's an important, quick thing to distinguish. When you think of climbing and a playoff run, they have an end. It's coming up pretty quick, very seasonal. But work isn't, which is why I think we got to be careful sometimes to take ideas from sports and think, well, we'll just translate them across. Or the military, oh, this will just be great work. We had a job. But I've worked in some things. And when you're looking down, this is 10 years. That's a different mindset. So we got to be careful and not just saying, wow, you can just do this and this and this, because that's a different grind. But when you're in that push, playoffs, climbing, a huge project, a launch, a takeover, or whatever's going on, you're going out like this grind, camaraderie. Over and over and over again. Camaraderie, like being in the trenches, use more metaphors, with somebody, shoulder to shoulder with someone who's going with you. It's certainly the case in that hockey locker room. There's something beautiful in that place. It smells. People are beaten up. They're patched together, injured. Those unable to play are standing out, watching, cheering you on. Same thing on a mountain. You're stretched. You're high up there. You run out of food and fuel, avalanche conditions, but you got your tent made. And it's the same thing. We're doing something difficult together. We're in the boardroom. We're pulling an all-nighter. You've got that camaraderie. And that over and over and over again, it seems to be the thing that allows people to tap into some sort of level of effort that they themselves didn't even know they had. They just go to battle, go to bat, go to whatever with their teammates. It's camaraderie.
That's interesting. I obviously don't spend a lot of time mingling with professional athletes, unfortunately. Do spend a lot of time in boardrooms and with executive level people. And one of the things that it's palpable with a lot of people, it's fear. And it's not fear that everything's going to go away tomorrow. It's fear that I'm going to be judged harshly. I'm going to let people down. People expect things from me that I've never done. In a lot of cases have never been done, period. And when they're fearful, the people around them become, it's like, it's as contagious as passion is, only the exact opposite. And the fear creates the procrastination and people bailing out and jumping ship and losing faith and all those other wonderful things. What do you say to that athlete or to that CEO, that executive level person, to get them to move past this notion that we can stall or hesitate because we're afraid?
Yeah. I think it's to acknowledge it. That was a big thing, say, with some hockey players, or even in big companies when you have a dynamic at play where, there's lots of agendas and they're often hidden and people are jockeying for position to maybe get that raise or that promotion, waiting for someone else to stumble so they can step in. And it's crazy dynamic. There's a lot going on.
Jamie, we're going to have to pause. We lost the audio on you.
We lost.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
No, you're back.
Oh, you're
Oh,
back.
I'm back. That was weird. Yeah.
Oh,
So
so you said it's a crazy dynamic.
there are those crazy dynamics for sure. But I would say that the fear doesn't change. The fear element doesn't go away. It's acknowledging it in the group so that you can gain access to the camaraderie that brings energy. Like, I don't know if I've experienced greater joy than being a part of a high performing team. It might be a team of two, might be a team of two, but there's a great joy, and it's so rare. It's like you asked a large group, how many of you have been a part of, a functioning team that's actually pretty shocking how few hands go up because it is so rare because of all the fear and the stuff that you talked about. I'm not saying that camaraderie is the absence of fear. It's that camaraderie is there, the presence and the abundance of fear. And there's a willingness to talk about it. There's a willingness to acknowledge the fact that this is scary, that this is difficult, that the pressure is high, the pressure on you, the pressure on me. And that doesn't mean we're all holding hands and having a big come-by-God moment. We got work to do, stuff to get done. But that leadership has created the environment where there are these honest conversations happening so that they can access the camaraderie that then brings them the courage and the energy to keep forging forward against those what appear to be insurmountable odds. The fear doesn't go away, but having a team that you're actually connected with makes it more worthwhile.
Well, let me ask this because I know we chewed up a lot of your valuable time when you could be out riding your motorcycle out in South Florida or Southern California, you bum.
We're not at all jealous, by the way.
Not
Well, fishing.
even close.
Anytime we go fishing.
You've said, and I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, I probably butchering you, get it wrong. On the other side of fear is freedom. I absolutely love that. That'd make a great bumper sticker. But what can a listener do right now? What should they be thinking about to be able to push the fear out of whatever it is that they're worried about and get to the other side?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any escaping it. I think that's the first thing to accept. I used to think, well, I'm afraid of heights. I'm constantly scared of everything. I'm scared of the dark. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm scared of failure. I'm scared of ridicule. I'm scared of judgment. I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared. And I thought, well, I'm just inherently a fat chicken. But then I realized that's actually part of being human. Because that's our evolution. Like, if we weren't scared, we'd have been long dead. Because, well, there's no lion down by the water. I'll go get it, whatever. That died. The person didn't have any fear. Done. No reproduction. So the fact that we're here having this conversation is because we're scared. Because we've got to manage everything so we can protect ourselves. Beautiful. So then I think it becomes a relationship with fear. Too much of it, and generally as a result of lack of research and planning and preparation, leads to paralysis and probably injury or problem. Fear in excess. No bueno. The absence of fear, you're likely coasting and you're a bit dangerous. So I think there's a sweet spot. And the sweet spot is I'm going to take on things. Like, I try to think of fear as an indicator of where I should be interested. Not something to be repulsed by, but as it scares me. I'm like, no, I got to go over there and check it out. So I think it can be that where do you access the freedom on the other side of fear? I think you have to go through it. And you gain courage. It's not an innate ability again. I think it's a learned behavior. It's through planning, preparation, and training, and taking off the small bites and making progress. You have to do it one step at a time to navigate your way through it. I wish there was a magic pill to take or a bullet. Just be, now you're courageous. Nothing scares you. Life is great. I think I'm going to be shared for
It
my
used to
whole
be
life.
tequila. Tequila
It used
used
to
to
be
do.
open bar.
Doesn't work
Exactly.
anymore.
Doesn't work. Because the loathing the next day is worse than the fear of
It's a whole different kind of fear.
the total mythicist. Honestly, I think that's it. It's that this is an accepted part of being human. We are inherently managing risk, and fear is how it's manifest, just to keep us safe and procreating and on this planet. Okay, how am I going to use it then? The right amount of fear, for me anyway, brings me energy, brings me focus and concentration. When I'm a little wound up and nervous, when the alarm goes off, I can't hit snooze. I got to swing my feet to the floor. That to me is That's a paralyzed and stuck and stressed. Too much. Sleeping in, too little. Sweet spot.
We thought was beautiful.
Jamie,
Well
I
done.
love what you're doing here with this, because I've been on couches, bad ones. I've been with interesting people who I thought were great, and people who said, well, you just have to get past it. Fear's not a thing. In Dune right now, they say fear is the mind killer. But like, no. You know what? You need to actually embrace it. It's like a skeleton in your closet. You just have to embrace it. It's there. Realize what it is. Make put the most risk that you're comfortable with and move through it. And it's a joy talking to you. It really, really is. Jamie, would you do me a favor and tell folks where they can find you, where they should be looking for your work? I would just tell you, everyone, if you can, get to see this man on stage. You will see leaping, hopping, jumping. You will see, you will be on fire watching Jamie Clarke go do what he does. But Jamie, tell everyone where we can find you.
I do get a little wound up speaking. I'm
You
nervous.
did.
That's fear. Like, I sit in the audience, and I've done this a lot of times in a lot of places all over the world, whether there's 10 people or 10 people. I'm worried. I'm nervous. I've done my homework. I've studied the industry, the group. I've sat in 5 hours with a session the day before, all the general sessions. I'm thinking of stuff, changed. I've built a presentation, but I'm still nervous. Good. The day I get up there and I don't, I should quit, because that winds me up, because you have to do a good job in this. You cannot waste these people's time. There's 10 people here listening to you for an hour. You better kill it. Or there's 5, or there's 20.
Yeah.
You better kill it. This better be the best talk you've ever given. It might be your third this week. It better be the best one you've ever given. And so that's the stress and the fear that gets the energy on the stage. So thanks for, you two can appreciate it because you understand the process. But the audience might think you just sort of chilling and walk up there and do. I'm sweating bullets every time. And so to track me down, I'm terrible with the socials. I'm barely on LinkedIn. I have a website. I probably need to update it. I used to call it a web page, and then someone reminded me there's multiple pages. It's a site. So, but
It's a great website.
It's not bad. It's better. It's just not embarrassing. It's jamieclarke.com. And if anybody wanted to reach out and had a question, contact Jamie. Email comes to me. I don't have some big team. Give me a beat because I might be off somewhere and skiing or climbing or whatever. I respond. I like reaching out. It's nice to have feedback and I love to connect to a point. And then I'm kind of anti-social. So, I'd be like measure.
All right. Well, Jamie Clarke,
man,
thanks so
dude.
much for joining us. It was a real pleasure, again, to be spending some time with you. Let's figure out when we can actually do this face-to-face. Thanks, all.
See you, man.
Take
Ride
care.
safe out there.